Hello. Today we're going to talk about how do I define perfect square numbers and their square roots, and how can I determine cube roots of rational numbers. My son Evan is here to help me with a little trick. So the first thing we start with here is a square. And for example, here on this Rubik's Cube, you can see they have squares, right, on each one. So this square is actually 3 units down and 3 units across. So the area would be 3 times 3, or 3 squared. So that's why it's a square, and it's a total of 9 units there. So that's a square number. So 3 squared is 9. 9 is what you would call a perfect square. Now, the Rubik's Cube can kind of be messed up, and we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. So what we have here is, if we start out, this whole area of all the black lines is 36 inches squared. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches here, and 6 inches here, and 6 times 6 is 36. So 6 times 6 equals 36. You can put that over here. 6 times 6, which would equal 6 squared, equals 36. All right. I got this cube messed up a little bit. I'm going to hand it to Evan. He's going to solve it for us while I continue talking about math. All right, so then the next one is 16 inches squared. So to draw that, I would need to use 16 blocks. And the way you do that is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would go down, around, up, and you make a square that's 4 by 4. So the blue one is 4 by 4. So 4 times 4 equals 4 squared, or 16 inches. Now the red one would be 4. So just use 4 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. And make this 2 by 2 square. And 2 times 2 equals 2 squared. And so that would be 4 inches. And now you can kind of see I did 2 squared, 4 squared, 6 squared, but the Rubik's Cube itself is going to be my green marker. And since we're going to come back to that in a minute, that's 9 square units. And remember, that one was 3 by 3. So this whole square area here, 3 by 3 is 9. So 3 times 3 equals 3 squared, which equals 9 inches. And that's how you square numbers. Now, sometimes you can start with the area, and you can take the square root. So I'm taking the square root of 36. I think back to what that square would be. What are the side lengths? The square root of 36, that had side lengths of 6. So the square root of 36 is 6. And then I go to the square root of 16. Those side lengths were 4. So the square root of 16 would be 4. And that's what this symbol means. It means the square root, unless it's labeled with another number that we'll get to in a minute. And the square root of 4 would be 2, because those side lengths were 2. And finally, the square root of 9 would have a side length of 3. Now also, we can take the negative square root, and all you do for that is you take this positive square root of 3, and you would say it is negative 3. Because when we're talking about distances and squares, you can't have a negative distance. But if we put a negative sign in front of the square root, we can do it. And you can see here, Evan has made our cube for us just in time to get to the cubes. So thank you. I want you to hold on to that, or you can step out of the room if you'd like. Thank you very much. So the square root of 4 is 2, and then the negative would be negative 2. And 16 would be 4, but negative 4. And the square root of 36 would be 6, but actually be negative because we have the negative sign there. All right, now the Rubik's Cube. We talked about this. Don't unsolve it. You're going to see it. So the Rubik's Cube is this cube here. It says 3 by 3 by 3. So one good way to draw a cube is to actually use, I usually draw a hexagon. And then you can kind of draw this, connect every other symbol, like a peace sign sort of in it, right? Maybe I do this wrong. Let me try that again. Except I don't have an eraser in here. All right. So, can draw a hexagon. There we go, I didn't draw a hexagon, that's why. And then you connect every other side to the center. And I have what is cube. But the Rubik's Cube is 3 by 3 on each side. So I'd have to draw each side kind of like this. And I have 3 by 3. And then I can do that again, split this into thirds and split that into thirds. And I have 3 by 3 here. So the volume of this, draw it up here just so you can kind of see that. The volume is to be 3 times 3 times 3, which you could also write as 3 to the third power, or 3 cubed. Now 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. So 3 cubed is going to equal 27. These numbers get big really, really fast. So that's how you could find the volume of a cube is y to the third is the cubed. But sometimes we're given the volume, right? And I got to figure out how big is this cube. That's 64 cubic centimeters. So how big is that cube? Again, I'm going to start out with my hexagon here and draw it right this time. And the volume is 64, so I got to think, what would this have to be? And this is just kind of process of elimination. That's why it's important. Maybe make a reference chart here. I could try, I actually know that if I do 4 times 4, I get 16. And then 16 times 4. So 4 times 4, so it would be 16. And 16 times 4 would be, 4 times 6 is 36, or no, 30. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 1, or 4 times 10 is 40. 24 plus 40 is going to be 64. All right, so 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So in this case, we know that 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So that means that what you would actually write is the cube root. So do you write a cube root? You write the square root symbol, but over here you write a 3. So you know you're doing the cube root of 64 is going to equal 4.
That looks like a 9.
Sorry, my handwriting is messy. Back up a little bit of it so you're not in the way. All right, so that's kind of how we do that. There's a good way to play with cubes and looking at cubes and cube roots. You go to toytheater.com, and I'll share a link with you, /build. And that's a place where you can actually build with cubes, manipulative online. On that note, we are done. Thank you, and for learning about squares and how do I define perfect square numbers and the square roots? I can determine cube roots of rational numbers. That's what we worked on today. That's the end.